Hey guys, tonight we journey into one of the most hidden corners of Imperial China, the brutal life of a concubine in the emperor's harem. You awake before dawn in a cramped dormitory, the smell of jasmine, incense, and damp silk clinging to the air. Birds still twitter in the palace gardens as you're roughly roused, because you probably won't survive this if you miss a single ritual. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And don't forget to drop your location and local time in the comments so we can see our little global community come alive tonight. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Before you even glimpse the emperor, you're herded from your village at dawn. A ragtag procession of hopeful faces, blanketed by fear. The imperial census records show the harem could contain hundreds of women, drawn from every province. Some say up to 1,000 during the Tang dynasty alone. Historians still argue whether these women represented genuine social elevation or merely traded one kind of bondage for another. You clutch the hand-woven basket. Your mother made the same one she used to carry rice for harvest, now stuffed with opium-laced tea leaves and a single white peony hairpin. At the palace gates, lacquered guards with stern expressions brush past you. A eunuch snatches your basket and tosses it aside. Its contents will be redistributed or sold. You step onto jade-tiled floors, the cold seeping through your straw-soled slippers. In this golden labyrinth, every echo means someone is listening. You're led to a vast bronze cauldron, where swirling steam rises, scented with sandalwood and frankincense. Pays the latter a fringe, beauty practice believed to keep insects at bay, though some women swear it reeks of rotting lotus petals. Your first command: undress. Every stitch of silk and hemp is peeled away and examined for flaws or stains. One tiny tear, one misplaced stitch, and a low-ranking servant might snicker behind your back. Or worse, the palace physician might brand you as unsuitable and send you to the imperial laundry, a euphemism for exile to the northern frontier. You swallow back bile at the thought. Power in the harem was notoriously fickle. Official edicts record that concubines could be banished for anything from a sour expression during a banquet to a single dropped chopstick at dinner. They scrub you down with a brush of wild peach bark and pour lukewarm water over your skin. Ancient texts recommend this to tighten pores and brighten the complexion. By midday, you're outfitted in a high-collar silk robe, dyed vermilion with safflower pigment so costly it almost glitters under candlelight. You feel like a walking work of art, but fragile like a porcelain vase teetering on the edge of a table. In the hall of ceremonies, you kneel before the emperor's throne, a carved jade dragon coiled at its base. You present your peony pin bow, so low your hairbrush threatens to slip from its bun, and recite your village name in perfectly measured tones. Even your voice is judged. Mispronounce the fourth tone in peony, and a scandalized lady-in-waiting will file a complaint. The palace archives document countless rebukes for improper diction, a reminder that etiquette was weaponized daily. As you rise, a wave of relief passes until you notice the emperor's gaze. In the flicker of torchlight, you search for a hint of approval. A flick of his fan might mean a brief reprieve from cold baths. A glance like thunder could command late-night readings of poetry by candleglow, or summon you to a midnight audience where forbidden touches carry equal parts thrill and terror. By evening, your muscles ache from standing motionless during court rituals. Your throat is raw from chanting archaic prayers. And yet, you force a gentle smile for the chamberlain's inspection. the weight of powdered pearls in your tea. Another fringe beauty tip makes every sip feel like swallowing tiny beads of glass. This is just your first day as the emperor's concubine torn from home, molded into courtly perfection, and already navigating deadly politics. Remember that jasmine incense on your skin, the cold of the jade floor, and the hush that follows each footstep. You'll revisit these moments over and over as you learn that survival here is an art in itself. You step through gilded doors carved with phoenix motifs, and for a moment you think you've wandered into a dream painted in lacquered gold. Lantern light dances across the polished marble floors, and red silk tapestries embroidered with mythic dragons drape the walls. Welcome to the inner court, where the emperor's favored concubines live in ostentatious comfort that most nobles could never afford. Yet behind every shimmering curtain lies a truth you're about to learn. This lavish arrival is just the next layer of your gilded cage. The inner court was built in the early Ming dynasty, around the 1420s, commissioned by Emperor Yongle to showcase the dynasty's power and refinement. Historians still argue whether its extravagant design was intended more as a political statement to foreign envoys or as a tool of domestic propaganda. Either way, you'd be hard-pressed to find a peasant household in your home province with such elaborate decoration. Columns of black lacquer entwined with gold leaf support, vaulted ceilings painted like summer skies, and architectural marble that required hundreds of artisans' months to complete. Your escort, a soft-spoken lady-in-waiting named Leon, glides beside you in slippers so thin you feel every irregularity in the marble. She points out the living lotus garden, its watered jade floor, pulsing with the reflection of koi fish, painted on porcelain tiles. Legends say the koi image was placed upside down as a symbol of prosperity pouring in. Yet some palace scholars question whether that inversion was unintentional. After all, craftsmen were human too. You try not to wince as Leon adjusts your sleeve, noting a stray thread. In the palace, a pulled seam could be mistaken for careless grooming. She leads you past a long corridor, lined with bronze censers, each billowing clouds of sandalwood incense. You inhale deeply, letting the smoke coat your lungs like a silken shawl. Fringe text warn that too much frankincense paste in the incense mix can cause headaches so severe they mimic migraines. But the court physician insists it's essential for warding off malevolent spirits. No wonder some concubines sneak in their blend of chrysanthemum petals for a gentler aroma. At the heart of the inner court lies the Pearl Pavilion, where concubines practice poetry and tea ceremonies for the emperor's entertainment. You're shown a jade seat carved with phoenix wings reserved only for newcomers. As you sit, plush cushions filled with rose petals sigh beneath you, and a bamboo screen partially conceals the pavilion's open side, offering a view of the palace moat, glimmering under the moonlight. The moat itself was widened during the Qing dynasty. To deter rebellions, official records claim it reached depth of 15 feet, though some travelers whisper it was even deeper, holding secrets beneath its surface. A maid pours tea from a porcelain teapot, painted with peonies and a hush falls. You raise the delicate cup to your lips, the porcelain chilling your fingertips. The tea tastes of rare white peony leaves, grown in the Fujian mountains, a luxury so prized that only the imperial family and a handful of courtiers ever sample it. Fringe gossip among concubines says the leaves were plucked by blind monks at dawn to keep the leaves pure of human desire, but serious scholars dismiss that as romantic nonsense. You sip anyway, desperate for any comfort. Leon leans in, her whisper soft as falling feathers. This is where you'll learn to mask fear with grace. Your astonishment must be concealed. Only confidence can earn you a moment of favor. You nod, though your heart pounds so hard you worry the emperor might hear it through stone walls. She glances at the moon-filtered water and lowers her voice further. Remember, the jade floors never look down when you walk. Show your back straight and head high, or they'll assume you lack dignity. Beyond the pavilion, you glimpse the Hall of Reflection, an opulent ceremonial space, where concubines parade before lacquered mirrors, hoping the emperor will note their beauty. Those mirrors were crafted by Persians brought over during the Yuan dynasty. Historians still debate whether the metal alloy was superior to anything produced in China at the time. In any case, the mirrors gleam so brilliantly that some say they can reveal a person's hidden flaws as if exposing their soul. You swallow, dreading the moment you'll stand before one. As your tour continues, you pass rows of private chambers, each more lavish than the last. Silk cushions embroidered with gold thread line the floors. Vermilion lacquer desks hold calligraphy brushes made from weasel hair. At the end of the corridor, a small alcove houses a gnarled bonsai tree, over 500 years old according to palace records, and said to be a gift from a Korean envoy. French lore insists the tree is haunted by its original caretaker's spirit, which some concubines claim whispers secrets about the palace's hidden passages at midnight. You're shown your quarters, a modest room by palace standards, yet decadent compared to your old brushwood hut. A lacquered bed with silk canopies invites you to rest. But you hesitate. Comfort here is a double-edged sword. The mattress is stuffed with crane feathers for breathability, and a screen painted with mythic landscapes offers privacy. Underneath hidden drawers contain the makeup kit you'll need for every sunrise, rice powder tinted with crushed pearls, cinnabar rouge, and a special balm made from musk and goat's milk. Some French beauty manuals suggest adding a pinch of ground jade dust to the powder for an otherworldly glow, though palace physicians warn it clogs pores. Leon offers a small porcelain dish of candied jujubes, their sticky sweetness a brief pleasure. Outside your window, courtyard, lanterns flicker like fireflies. The walls pulse with the palace's constant heartbeat, distant laughter, the scrape of ceremonial fans, and the ever-present hiss of incense burners. Here, in this glittering space, you feel yourself trapped between awe and dread. The inner court's opulence is intoxicating and equally suffocating. Every embroidered wall, hanging, and polished surface serves as a reminder you are a prize to be displayed, a tool for imperial prestige and nothing more. Yet for tonight you allow yourself a moment of wonder. Tomorrow you will begin learning the rituals that bind you tighter to this gilded world, where beauty and brutality intertwine in an endless courtly dance. You wake before the first rooster crows, eyelids heavy with the fragrances and fears of yesterday, and immediately your day begins training in the art of courtly perfection. In the music hall, flanked by red lacquered columns, your instructor, a stern former concubine named Madame Wei, guides your fingers across a guzheng, its strings humming like distant silk ribbons. Learning court etiquette here means mastering 3 disciplines: music, poetry, and posture. You settle onto your knees on a woven mat, the emerald green brocade, brushing against your ankles, and attempt the opening notes of spring winds. A stray pluck echoes like a bird's cry, and Madame Wei's lips tighten. Records from the Qing archives note that concubines practiced guzheng up to 4 hours daily to cultivate measured grace, a regimen most noble women never endured. Historians still argue whether such musical rigor actually soothed court tensions or merely served as another display of imperial control. After a short recess, you're led to the poetry chamber, its walls lined with scrolls inscribed in flowing calligraphy. Here, You learn to compose full poems on demand, intricate works, blending verse and prose. You bow low before a lacquered table and dip a brush into indigo ink, attempting a couplet about moonlight reflecting off the imperial canals. Your hand trembles, and a bead of sweat plinks onto the paper. A whisper ripples through the other trainees. Fringe, practice says. Concubines sometimes chewed willow bark to steady their hands before calligraphy, believing its mild sedative qualities granted poetic clarity. Whether willow bark's effects were significant or placebo remains a debated topic among ethnobotanists, though the palace physician insisted on strict dietary rules to curb any herbal experiments. By mid-morning, you're marched to the etiquette drill yard, an open courtyard where concubines practice walking, kneeling, and bowing in precise repetition. The courtyard's flagstones are pressed smooth by centuries of ritual footfalls. Some say you could shave your eyebrow on them if you knelt too long. You stand in a line with a dozen others, each in identical pale blue robes. The instructor counts off tones in a sharp voice. 1, 2, 3, kneel. 1, 2, 3, rise, and you mimic the motions, feeling muscle memory burn your calves. Official protocol manuscripts decree that a proper curtsy involves a 45-degree angle at the waist and precise hand placement at the hip. Tiny deviations could be noted by the emperor himself during the final inspection. As noon approaches, you retreat to a small pavilion for lunch bowls of cold rice, mixed with sweet osmanthus petals, lotus seed soup, and pickled radishes. The aroma of osmanthus, a flower prized since Han Dynasty court, feasts, drifts through the air. Fringe accounts claim concubines sometimes added a powdered pearl to their lotus seed soup to enhance its youthful essence, but serious scholars question whether ingesting pearls provided any real cosmetic benefit or was simply luxury theater. Refueled, you enter the dance chamber, where 3 eunuch choreographers teach you the precision steps of the imperial fan dance. You wrap your fingers around a delicate silk fan painted with plum blossoms and move in slow arcs, each flutter meant to emulate a bird's wing. The eunuchs correct your every twitch. Legend holds they once studied Peking opera movements to perfect the deed, though whether that cross-training truly influenced harem dances is still a matter of academic debate. You practice for hours, feeling the tension in your shoulders unwind as your arms swivel like willow branches in a spring breeze. Throughout your drills, subtle assessments occur. A lady-in-waiting notes your posture, a eunuch watches your wrist angle, and another jot marks in an ink-black ledger kept for the emperor's perusal. You realize these lessons aren't just for show. They refine every aspect of your body and mind to mold you into the perfect vessel of imperial grace. Mistakes here might mean extra rehearsals under harsh lantern light, or worse, a note sent to the chamberlain pleading for your removal from training rotation entirely. As dusk nears, you're allowed a brief respite in the quiet corridor, its paper lanterns glowing like captured fireflies. Leaning against the carved mahogany rail, you catch a glimpse of the palace gardens and hear the distant drip of water from a stone fountain. The cool air carries a distant melody, concubines practicing their lute in another pavilion. You close your eyes and inhale. Despite exhaustion, there's a strange comfort in this relentless routine. It's a dance of survival as much as refinement. Returning to your quarters, your limbs ache satisfyingly. You pour a bowl of warm chrysanthemum tea, its bitter sweetness. A reminder that even beauty can taste harsh. As you sip, you let your mind wander. Remember the jade floors you first trod, the silk canopies above you, and the strict gaze of Madame Wei. Every lesson you endure edges you closer to either exaltation or erasure. Tonight, as you practice your curtsies by candlelight, you sense the delicate balance at play. The emperor's favor is your only lifeline, and these drills are the strings he pulls to test your resilience. Mistakes are not forgiven easily, but each flawless motion could earn you a fragment of grace. In this courtly performance, your body is both canvas and instrument, and mastering its movements may be the only way to stay alive. You slip from your quarters before dawn, the moonlight catching on your silk hem, and immediately sense the undercurrents of rivalry swirling through the corridor. Every concubine you pass offers a curt nod or a cold stare, as if your very presence threatens her position. Palace records from the Tang era note that concubine factions often formed around shared provincial origins. One might call them the Sichuan Sisters or the Jade Gate Alliance. And rumors say these cliques sometimes schemed to sabotage newcomers. Historians still argue whether these alliances held real power or were exaggerated by court gossip, but from the way those ladies hiss your name, you're inclined to believe there's substance to the whispers. The day's ritual begins with communal bathing in a jade-lined pool scented with osmanthus oil. As you step in, the water ripples and reflects dozens of embroidered robes floating like colorful petals. You try to keep your eyes forward, but you catch Madame Liu, the leader of the Northern Pines clique, smirking at you from across the pool. A mere flick of her fan sends a stream of hot water your way, a petty warning that she's watching your every move. Fringe sources claim some concubines secretly dropped ground mica into rivals' bathwater to dull their complexion. But serious scholars dismiss that as fanciful hearsay. Still, your skin tingles as if you've been dusted with sand. Dressed in matching pale pink robes, you file into the dining hall for breakfast. Steamed buns, filled with sweet red bean paste, and congee enriched with goji berries. At your table, your neighbor, a concubine from Jiangnan, leans in and whispers about last night's scandal. Lady Guo was caught hiding a hairpin in her sleeve, a potential theft of imperial property. You recall the official edict: any concubine found taking a palace item faced immediate exile or forced servitude in the North Mines. You choke on your congee at the thought of pine splinter beds and pickaxes. Joke 1, at least the dust there matches your new rouge color right. By mid-morning, you're summoned to the mirror gallery, a narrow hall lined with polished bronze and glass. Here, each concubine inspects her reflection before presenting herself for evaluation. The mirrors are said to be so perfectly crafted that they catch the faintest shift in expression. Fringe beauty manuals recommend pressing small jade discs to your temples before gazing, believing it calms the mind and prevents frowns, though medical texts warn that prolonged pressure can cause headaches. Whether the jade trick works or is placebo-driven is still a subject of debate among palace physicians. As you adjust your posture in front of a Persian-crafted mirror, you suddenly feel a jab in your rib. You whirl to see Lady Fang, her eyes narrowed like a hawk's elbowing you, while clutching her silk sash. Careful, she hisses, or the emperor might mistake you for more than just another pretty face. You blink, unsure whether she's warning or mocking you. Joke 2, if only he'd mistake me for the palace poet. At least then I'd avoid these daily catfights. You straighten off her a polite but rigid nod and step aside before she can push you again. The tension peaks during the morning parade in the Hall of Ceremonies. All concubines line up in neat rows, each holding a lotus-shaped candle. Your heart thuds as you enter the hall. Torchlight flickers on gold filigree, creating dancing shadows that feel like watching eyes. The chamberlain inspects each face for signs of fatigue, then passes judgment. A slight tremble in your hand might mark you as unfit for evening audiences. You remember the eunuch's warning: ease your grip and steady your breath or you'll be relegated to menial tasks. This threat looms over every moment like an invisible blade. Lunch brings no respite. In the Lotus Dining Pavilion tables, grown under porcelain dishes, sweet and sour mandarin fish, bamboo shoot salad, and stir-fried morning glory. But you're not here to savor flavors. You're here to watch spies. Palace spies, yes. Official records confirm eunuchs often relate gossip about favored concubines to the emperor hover at the edges of the pavilion, jotting notes on silk slips. Historians still argue whether these reports were used to inform imperial decisions or simply to entertain the emperor's curiosity. You avoid meeting a spy's gaze, focusing on chewing your fish rather than swallowing court secrets. After lunch, a mandatory tea ceremony tests your composure under scrutiny. A silver-haired dame instructs you in the art of whisking matcha until it foams like sea foam. One false whisk and the scalding tea splashes. Fringe etiquette guides advise tapping the tea bowl thrice before drinking to appease water spirits. Those serious scholars scoff, calling it a romantic fiction of village life. You tap softly just in case, and lift the bowl to your lips, meeting the cold gray eyes of the imperial inspector. You drink in silence, suppressing a wince as the bitter tea scalds your tongue. The final trial of the day is the Dance of Shadows, performed at dusk in a lantern-lit courtyard. You and a handful of concubines trace intricate patterns across the sand, a demonstration of your ability to cast graceful silhouettes. Each step must align perfectly, or your shadow will betray a misstep. Lady Guo, fresh from her hairpin scandal, nearly falters today, and quickly ducks behind a screen to collect herself. Rumors swirl that the emperor finds such stumbles endearing a sign of genuine humanity, though whether that's a myth or documented preference is still a hot topic among court chroniclers. When the dance concludes, you're breathless, your body humming with adrenaline. The moon glints off the palace moat and you pause to catch your breath. A single candle flickers in a nearby alcove, its flame a fragile promise of momentary peace. Rivalry, here, is more than petty jealousy. It's a matter of life and death. Each whispered rumor, each subtle shove, marks the fine line you tread between favor and oblivion. Returning to your chambers, you arrange your slippers by the wooden rack, an intimate ritual that doubles as a test, for a misshapen pair could be noted as a sign of disarray. As you undress, you brush your hair with a comb of sandalwood, inhaling its soothing scent. Fringe beauty lore suggests slipping a tiny lock of hair dipped in jasmine oil beneath your pillow grants pleasant dreams, but you doubt you'll sleep tonight. Instead, you lie awake, listening to the soft rustle of silk from the adjoining rooms, each rustle a reminder that hundreds of eyes never close in this palace of endless vigilance. Rivalry and jealousy are the unseen currents here, shaping your every choice and movement. You steel yourself for tomorrow, knowing that in this gilded cage, alliances might save you or break you. You awaken to the scent of jasmine oil still clinging to your pillow, but there's no time to linger. Before sunrise, you're summoned to the grooming pavilion, where the day's transformation begins in earnest. The pavilion's eaves are painted a deep crimson, and its columns curve like dragon tails. But inside, the atmosphere is all whispered instructions and clinking jade combs. As the first lanterns flicker to life, you join a half-circle of concubines, seated before low lacquered tables, strewn with ornate boxes. Your first task, hair binding. A senior hairdresser, her silver-streaked bun crisp as a porcelain figurine, takes your hair in her calloused hands and begins weaving it into the elaborate phoenix crown style. Legend holds that the hairstyle of 18 coils symbolizes the emperor's 18 noble virtues, though historians still argue whether the count was ever consistent across dynasties. You wince when she jabs a tortoiseshell pin too deep, but your expression must remain serene. Showing pain is considered a vulgar breach of decorum. Fringe rumor claims some concubines mixed powdered ambergris into their hair pomade for a heady aroma, but the palace physician warned it attracted unwelcome pests. Once your hair is secured, the makeup ritual starts. You sit before a bronze mirror as assistants apply a base of rice powder tinted with crushed pearls, rumored to have been introduced during the Tang dynasty when the court imported pearl dust from the South China Sea. Whether ingesting pearls brightens skin health is contested by medical scholars, but the effect under candlelight is undeniable. Next comes rouge, a stroke of cinnabar on each cheek, blended carefully to mimic the blush of dawn's first light. One misaligned brushstroke and a lady-in-waiting might mark you as incongruously colored, an offense, punishable by being sent to the palace infirmary for excessive vanity. Your lips receive the final touch, a delicate crescent of vermilion lacquer, historically derived from mercury sulfide, though most fringe beauty manuals claim some concubines used safer plant-based dyes made from alum and gardenia petals. Serious scholars note the health risks of mercury-based cosmetics, citing records of concubines suffering tremors thought to be mercury poisoning, another reminder that beauty here can be lethal. Fully made up, you stand feeling both magnificent and masked. You drape yourself in layers of silk, an inner robe dyed lapis lazuli blue, a middle layer of opulent white brocade, and an outer mantle embroidered with peonies and cranes, symbols of longevity and grace. The weight of the garments presses down on you as if the emperor's expectations rest upon your shoulders. Beneath your skirt, bound with silk cords, you wear straw sandals lined with cotton pads necessary for padding on the cold marble corridors. With your appearance perfected, you join the procession to the hall of morning tea. The route winds through echoing corridors, where bronze incense burners release clouds of sandalwood and musk, believed by fringe practitioners to ward off restless spirits, even though imperial decrees discouraged such mystical superstitions. You keep your gaze low, remembering Leon's warning, confidence hides beneath calm eyes. In the tea hall, rows of low tables, grown under porcelain teapots and tiny cups. Today's blend is jasmine-scented green tea, harvested from palace gardens, an honor reserved for those in favor. You lift your cup with both hands and offer a silent nod to the emperor's emblem embossed on the table. The ritual is timed to the second inhale, sip, exhale. A misstep could signal nervousness. Official court manuals note that concubines who mastered the tea ceremony were often called upon to host foreign envoys, a chance for fleeting recognition beyond the harem's walls. Next comes the daybreak ceremony, a series of formal bows and chants to honor heaven, earth, and the emperor's ancestors. Standing on jade tiles engraved with cloud motifs, you kneel prostrate and rise in a precise sequence. The ceremony blends Taoist and Confucian elements, a mainstream fact taught in the palace academies, and lasts nearly an hour. Fringe sects whispered that concubines once inserted tiny bells into their ceremonial sleeves, so their movements would echo, creating an ethereal soundtrack. But serious scholars dismiss this as a fanciful legend. When the ritual ends, you're led to the performance hall, where you must recite a poem you composed last night in Section 3's calligraphy lesson. Standing on a raised platform, you hear the echo of your voice in the vaulted chamber. A single mispronounced tone can disrupt the hall's delicate acoustics and draw laughter or worse, scorn. You recite verses about dawn's first light dancing on lotus leaves and ode to resilience under imperial gaze. The chamber's acoustic bricks imported from Central Asia during the Yuan dynasty amplify your voice unnaturally. Historians still argue whether these bricks were truly foreign or locally crafted imitations. After your performance, a senior concubine offers a curt nod, an acknowledgement of adequacy, not praise. In the tightly controlled world of the harem, praise is as rare as a moon eclipsed by a dragon. You bow, heart hammer, and slip off the platform. By midday, exhaustion weighs on you. You're herded back to the dressing pavilion for a quick adjustment rouge and powder retouched hair, coils smoothed, and robe folds straightened. An assistant whispers, "A wrinkle today is tomorrow's exile," and you force a smile. Joke 1. At least it's cheaper than plastic surgery, right? Your next rite unfolds in the Hall of Reflections, no relation to yesterday's mirror gallery. Here, concubines review choreographed poses, practicing the lotus grace. A stance with one foot, half raised, hands curved like petals. A peephole in the hall's ornate screen reveals the chamberlain observing your trial runs. Official records mention his quill, scratching notes as he judges each motion's poise. Fringe accounts claim some concubines placed small weights in their sleeves to steady their arms, though scholars debate whether such subterfuge ever truly existed or was just harem folklore. As afternoon fades into evening, you attend the lantern presentation. Each concubine carries a lantern inscribed with a personal poem or wish, and you march through the moonlit gardens in a silent parade. The lanterns, crafted of translucent silk, glow like captive moons. Legend says that if your poem's lines please the emperor, the lantern remains lit at dawn. Otherwise, it's extinguished before you return to quarters, an unspoken verdict of worth. You clutch your lantern's handle, heart fluttering as you wonder if your words about eternal blossoms in fleeting time captured enough favor. Finally, the day's rituals conclude with the blessing chant. In the inner shrine, you kneel before ancestral tablets and intone blessings in hushed tones. The incense smoke curls around you, and you feel a moment of serene connection to the dynasty's long line of rulers. Fringe historians claim some concubines secretly slipped prayers for personal freedom into the chants, though mainstream scholars dispute whether such petitions were ever offered or silently redacted by eunuch scribes. As the final incense stick burns low, you rise and exit the shrine, every movement measured. The grooming pavilion awaits one last touch-up, powder retouches, silk realignments, hairpin checks. Before you're deemed presentable for evening audiences, you return to your quarters, muscles humming from the day's grind, and shed your outer robes. In the quiet lantern light, you note a small smudge of rouge. At your hairline, a potential scandal in the making. With trembling fingers, you blot it with a silken cloth, willing it to disappear. In this endless cycle of hair-binding makeup and ceremonies, you learn that perfection is both armor and prison. The palace demands your transformation at every hour, leaving you little time to remember who you were before. Yet, as you lie down on your crane feather mattress, the last lantern flickers out, and you realize that to survive here, you must become the ritual itself. You awaken to the soft strains of a lute echoing through wooden lattice windows, a reminder that even music here carries political weight. Today's delicate trial centers on forbidden relationships, those perilous connections whispered about in dark corners of the palace. You learn early that any warmth shown beyond courtesy can be twisted into scandal. At breakfast in the Moon Pavilion, you exchange polite bows with a neighboring concubine named May, whose jade hairpin glints in the dawn light. A friendly smile passes between you, but you both know the unspoken rule: affection breeds jealousy. Historians still argue whether concubines ever formed genuine friendships, or if all alliances were opportunistic. In practice, a shared laugh might be recorded by eavesdropping eunuchs and used as evidence of insubordination. Imperial archives mention coded gossip slips dropped into suggestion boxes outside the emperor's study. Later, in the secluded garden, you're granted a rare moment of privacy to stroll among peony bushes with the imperial physician Li Yong, a man whose gentle eyes contrast the palace's harsh demands. He offers a cup of chrysanthemum wine, insisting it soothes the nerves. You sip the floral warmth unfurling in your chest and find yourself drawn to his calm presence. Fringe memoirs of former concubines recount furtive encounters in this very garden, sweet as plum blossoms yet fraught with peril. Scholars debate whether such liaisons ever truly occurred, or were courtly fantasies penned to entertain foreign emissaries. A sudden rustle among bamboo stalks reveals another concubine, Xiao Yu, clutching a folded silk handkerchief stamped with the emperor's emblem. Her eyes dart nervously. She whispers that Li Yong secretly treats favored concubines for moon maladies, a euphemism for affections that must remain hidden. You nod, heart fluttering at the hint of intimacy, a dangerous thrill. But palace whispers travel fast. By midday, you catch the chamberlain's stern glare at the Hall of Whispers, where concubines deliver petitions and secrets on silk slips. You tuck your robes tighter, praying no rumor of laughter or wine finds its way into his ledger. A fleeting glance could spell censure, exile to the border provinces, or consignment to the eunuch workshops. During the afternoon tea, ritual tension tightens. You perform the ceremony with precision, but May, seated next to you, brushes your elbow as they pass the teapot, a subtle sign of solidarity. You hold her gaze, and for an instant the world narrows to two hearts beating in unison. Joke 1: if only such a gesture could overthrow the entire court. Yet, as the tea cools, you realize the risk. A hand held too long, a too intense glance, and the emperor's ear might catch the wind. That evening, you're summoned for a private audience. Your pulse races as you enter the jade chamber, its red lanterns casting long shadows. There stands Li Yong, summoned to consult on court ailments. Neither of you speaks. His presence alone is both comfort and threat. You curtsy, deeply skirt, brushing the marble floor, and he bows in return, an exchange laden with unspoken meaning. The emperor's throne sits empty behind a silk screen. The tension is as thick as cinnabar paste. You depart with a single glance back at Li Yong. Your heart is torn between desire and dread. The palace teaches that restraint is virtue, indulgence is folly. Yet in that silent moment you tasted freedom, however fleeting. Historians still argue whether concubine-physician liaisons were punishable by death or merely hushed into oblivion. You will carry this memory like a secret blossom, beautiful but forbidden, until the day you must choose safety over love or risk losing both. The lanterns are extinguished before dawn, leaving the jade floors of the Hall of Audiences to reflect only the pale moonlight. You slip off your straw sandals and step barefoot onto the cool stone, every tiny fleck of marble sending a shiver up your spine. Today is the day you face the emperor's scrutiny directly. No intermediaries, no chamberlain's cushion between you and imperial judgment. The Hall of Audiences is an architectural marvel from the Tang dynasty. Its 90-foot columns of black lacquer support a ceiling, painted in swirling clouds, the whole space designed to awe. Historians still argue whether its original purpose was to intimidate foreign envoys or to humble even the emperor himself beneath its grandeur. Tonight, it serves as your proving ground. You stand on the dragon's eye tile, a single jade slab inlaid with gold leaf depicting a coiled dragon. Tradition holds that any misstep here will bring misfortune. Fringe accounts say concubines once prayed to hidden talismans beneath the tile for protection, though serious scholars dismissed the practice as mere folklore. You inhale, recalling Madame Wei's warning. Walk as if the dragon beneath your feet admires your grace. A low drumbeat signals the emperor's arrival. You bow deeply forehead, nearly grazing the floor, and rise slowly, maintaining perfect balance. The emperor, cloaked in a midnight blue robe embroidered with golden clouds, enters through a gilded screen. His eyes, sharp as hawks, sweep across the kneeling concubines before settling on you. You feel the weight of that gaze as though every secret you carry is laid bare. He gestures and a single chamberlain steps forward with a fan carved from sandalwood. You stand still as the fan waves a test of your composure. Official court records describe this ritual as the breath of heaven, a moment meant to confirm which concubine remains calm under scrutiny. Fringe reports claim that surviving concubines sometimes smuggled charms sewn into their robes to steady their nerves, though palace edicts strictly banned any talismanic items. Next comes the whispered query. The emperor asks a personal question in a hushed tone. Perhaps your favorite poem, your village's name, or a reflection on the moon's beauty. The question varies by season. Tonight, he asks, which flower best reflects your spirit? Your mind flashes back to the peony gardens of home, but you recall that tradition prizes the lotus for purity. Historians still debate whether an honest answer or a strategic one earned more favor. You choose the lotus, speaking clearly, because it rises from mud unsullied. He inclines his head almost imperceptibly. The final trial is the silken touch. A piece of raw silk is draped over your arm. You must press your palm as if offering warmth, neither too light nor too firm. Official manuals note that the emperor weights his silk in secret to detect trembling hands. You steady yourself, pressing down with even pressure. A flicker of a smile, perhaps approval, crosses the emperor's face. But it's gone almost before you notice. As you depart the hall, your heart pounds so loudly. You fear eunuchs might record the beat. Outside, other concubines exchange glances, some envious, some relieved. Lady Feng bows to you briefly. Her eyes betray grudging respect. You bow back, mindful that humility here is both shield and shackle. Later in the quiet corridor, you replay every detail. The drumbeat, the dragon tile, the whispered question. You unlace your sandals, feeling the jade's chill one last time. In your quarters, you slip into night robes of pale moonlight hue and pour a cup of chrysanthemum tea. Each sip soothes the ache in your chest. That night, as the palace sleeps, you wonder if your performance will secure a place in tomorrow's rituals or consign you to obscurity. The emperor's favor is as ephemeral. As the lanterns glow bright one moment, extinguish the next. But tonight, you hold on to the faintest ember of hope. You awaken to the soft drip of water in the reflection courtyard where lotus blooms float in shallow pools beneath carved moon gates. Today's trial is surviving palace politics, a labyrinth more deadly than any frontier. You learn quickly that alliances here are forged in whispered corridors and broken over teacups. Historians still argue whether eunuchs or concubines wielded greater influence in court intrigues. In practice, both camps traded information like currency. Your first encounter is with eunuch Zhao, a lean figure draped in saffron robes who slides into your chambers at dawn, bearing a porcelain cup of rose-scented tea. His slick smile suggests he's probing for gossip, not hydration. You drink slowly, tasting the sweet petals as he comments on the recent demotion of Lady Guo banished after her hairpin scandal. Official palace annals record that eunuch factions often orchestrated such downfalls to curry imperial favor, though fringe tales claim some schemes involved enchanted mirrors that revealed a rival's deepest fears. Whether those mirrors ever existed remains a point of scholarly debate. Over breakfast in the Crimson Pavilion, you're seated beside Yulan, a veteran concubine known for her stealthy maneuvers. She slides you a folded slip of silk inscribed with 3 characters, "Trust no one." You tuck it into your sleeve as the chamberlain passes by, noting the look in Yulan's eyes, equal parts warning and camaraderie. Joke 1. At least in a Western office, gossip doesn't come with poison-laced tea. You nod, keeping your expression neutral, aware that even a flicker of surprise could mark you as naive. Mid-morning brings the delegation of petitions a time when concubines appeal for privileges like extra silk yards or respite from morning drills. In the Hall of Sleeps, you observe a throng of embroidered gowns, each woman clutching a brightly colored petition slip. Eunuch scribes stand by baskets collecting the pleas and sorting them by ink color blue slips for favors, red for emergencies. Fringe records suggest some concubines tucked secret messages to eunuchs within the slips, sealing them with honey to mask their scent. But mainstream scholars dismiss this as fanciful. Still, the scribe next to you catcalls softly. Your request for fresh jade sandals might need an imperial signature. You swallow, realizing you hadn't intended to request anything so bold. In the afternoon, you attend the Court of Whispers in the hidden alcove, a room off-limits to most. Only selected concubines and eunuchs gather to share rumors that might sway the emperor's moods. Tonight's topic: the mysterious disappearance of a high-ranking minister. A hush falls as Lady Ming speaks, her voice low. They say he challenged the emperor's competence in private. The dragon throne brooks no dissent. You exchange a glance with May, who shrugs, though you both know dissent in hushed tones can be just as perilous. Historians still debate whether the court's secret tribunals served genuine justice or were mere spectacles of control. As dusk approaches, you're summoned by Lady Feng, your erstwhile rival, turned uneasy ally after Section 7's audience trial. In her chambers, silk pillows mound beneath carved ebony screens. She presents you with a delicate fan painted with chrysanthemum blossoms. A gift, she says, voice clipped. Tonight, align with Eunuch Zhao. He'll protect you during the lantern parade. You accept the fan feeling its cool lacquer, but hesitate. Aligning with Zhao could sever your bond with Yulan. Joke 2. Talk about office politics. These factions make LinkedIn look like preschool. You tuck the fan into your obi, vowing to weigh your loyalties carefully. The lantern parade begins under a crescent moon, each concubine processing through the lotus garden, carrying silk lanterns shaped like her petition privilege. Those whose requests were denied carry lanterns in dull gray. Approved requests glow in vibrant jade. As you step onto the moonlit path, your lantern flickers brightly. Yulan must have whispered on your behalf. Relief floods you, followed by a prickling awareness. Everyone sees your fortune tonight. Eunuch Zhao emerges from the shadows, bowing slightly. His lips twitch upwards in a congratulatory smirk. You nod in return, mindful that his favor is both shield and leash. After the parade, you slip into the shadow corridor for a hushed debrief with Yulan and Feng. The corridor's paper walls absorb your words, but you speak softly nonetheless. Yulan reveals that another faction, the Lotus Court, plans to accuse Feng of bribery by dawn. Feng clenches her fan and presses it to her lips. "If they move tonight, I'll need your help to divert attention," she murmurs. The weight of implication presses on you: act and risk entanglement, or step back and watch a fellow concubine fall. You decide on distraction, a whispered rumor of a secret midnight feast, with the court physician born from Section 6's liaison whispers. You slip away to the palace kitchens where a network of chefs and servants stands ready to spread gossip swiftly. Joke 3. Culinary sabotage. Who knew harem intrigue could taste like marmalade? By the time you return, servants have circulated the rumor, eunuchs busy themselves with speculations, and the Lotus Court's leaders fume over misplaced focus. Back in your quarters, you unpack the fan and the silk slip, weighing their significance, trust, deception, and alliances that shift like sand. You pour a cup of warm plum tea, its tart sweetness grounding you. As you cradle the cup, you reflect on survival in this palace. It's not the grand ceremonies or whispered queries that determine your fate, but the quiet choices made in shadowed halls. Tonight, as you settle onto your crane feather mattress, you plot your next move. Which faction will you truly serve? And when will you turn on a friend to save yourself? In this gilded world of palace politics, every smile hides a sting. You close your eyes, your heart racing with possibilities and betrayals yet to come. You awaken in the dim glow of dawn, your hair still faintly redolent of jasmine from the night before. Today's focus fringe beauty practices that promise to turn you into a living chandelier, provided you survive the side effects. You step into the beauty chamber, its walls lined with lacquered shelves holding jars of powders, pastes, and precious oils. The chamber was established during the Tang dynasty as part of palace cosmetic reforms, aiming to standardize concubine appearances. Historians still argue whether these reforms improve hygiene or simply tighten imperial control over female bodies. Your attendant, a young woman with nimble fingers, begins with frankincense paste. This resinous compound, imported from the Arabian Peninsula along Silk Road routes, was prized since the Han Dynasty for its soothing scent. Fringe gossip insists concubines sometimes mixed it with crushed jade dust to create a luminescent sheen in candlelight, though scholars debate whether jade particles could ever reflect light enough to be noticeable. You feel the cool paste as it's massaged into your scalp, a tingle that borders between invigorating and mildly painful. Rumor says it also kept lice at bay. Medical texts concede it may have repelled insects, but warn of skin irritation if left too long. Next comes the ritual of powdered pearls. You pick up a small porcelain mortar and carefully grind iridescent pearls imported from the South China Sea and valued more than gold until they form a fine chalky powder. Mainstream records confirm that powdered pearls were used in traditional Chinese medicine to calm the mind and brighten the complexion. Historians still argue whether ingesting pearl powder offered genuine health benefits or was merely a display of opulence. You mix the powder with a drop of honey and swallow it, the gritty sweetness scraping your throat. Your attendant watches, expression neutral, as the sticky residue coats your tongue. Joke 1. If this doesn't give me a glow, at least it doubles as an expensive throat lozenge. While you wait for the pearl concoction to activate, you move on to golden lotus oil. A drop of this viscous elixir is dabbed onto each cheekbone and brow ridge to catch lantern light during evening audiences. Fringe beauty manuals boast that the oil was created by infusing lotus petals in melted beeswax, harvested from palace hives. Serious scholars, however, question whether these primers actually enhance skin radiance or simply made faces slick. You tap your fingers over the oil in a delicate lotus bloom pattern, feeling the warmth spill from the cushioned tray to your fingertips. The next step is more extreme, an herbal steam bath infused with ginseng and deer antler shavings. You strip down and slip into a wooden tub filled with aromatic steam. Mainstream palace logs describe this practice as a way to open pores for deeper cleansing. Fringe anecdotes claim that a few concubines added crushed cinnabar to the steam water to tighten skin, a dangerous choice, since cinnabar contains mercury. Scholars debate whether any concubines truly risked mercury poisoning for beauty's sake. Either way, your lungs burn as you inhale the heady mixture, and beads of sweat trace paths through the pearl residue on your face. Refreshed, if a bit disoriented, you move to the nail pavilion, where lacquer mixed with crushed coral creates a crimson varnish for your fingertips. This practice dates back to the Song dynasty, when court women used nail color to signal rank. Darker shades meant higher favor. Historians still argue whether these colors were strictly regulated or open to personal choice. Your nails are painted in 3 coats, each dried under a silk hood as you sit motionless. A faint odor of coral perfume drifts in the air, oddly sweet and briny. By late morning, you're scheduled for the Mirror of Truth assessment in the Grand Mirror Hall. This massive convex mirror, said to have been imported from Persia during the Yuan era, shows every angle of your visage under natural sunlight. You approach careful to keep your posture regal. The attendant surrounding the mirror shines a candle behind you, casting halos on your hair and highlighting the golden oil and pearl powder. You study your reflection, luminous, yes, but also revealing pores clogged with pearl grit and faint redness around your scalp from the frankincense paste. Scholars still debate whether this mirror's distortions were intentional exaggerations to judge beauty more harshly, or simply a byproduct of its convex shape. The attending chamberlain murmurs, "Your glow rivals morning dew," and you force a graceful nod, praying he isn't noting your flushed cheeks. For lunch, you're offered a beauty broth, a thin soup of turtle shell shards, goji berries, and silkworm pupae. Mainstream court medical texts prescribe it for strengthening hair and nails. Fringe diaries of former concubines recall that some women added powdered pearls to the broth for extra luster, though nutritionists scoff at such lavish additions. You sip cautiously, tasting faint earthiness beneath the sweet berries. Joke 2. Nothing says gourmet like silkworm pupae in your soup. The afternoon is reserved for the face-curling ritual. You're led to a low bench beside a pot of boiling water scented with chrysanthemum and chrysanthemum alone. Concubines believed it prevented wrinkles. You bend over and let the steam wash over your face. As beads of moisture gather on your skin, you press your palms lightly to smooth each curve. Fringe lore claims that some concubines use this steam bath to simulate controlled weeping, believing tears carried youth-restoring properties. Serious scholars argue this is poetic fiction rather than fact. You allow your eyes to water slightly, just enough to test the theory, though your cheeks sting from the heat. Finally, dusk arrives, and you retreat to the chamber of silk veils for the closing ritual. Thin, translucent veils dyed in peacock blues and emerald greens are draped across your shoulders, their colors meant to filter moonlight for an otherworldly glow. Mainstream records note that these veils were woven with silk from the favored western provinces. Historians still debate whether the dyes were plant-based or derived from crushed beetles. You let the veils cascade around you, feeling like an apparition in the candlelit corridor. Before resting, you dab a final drop of jasmine-infused musk oil behind your ears, and at your wrists, a scent said to linger in intimate encounters. Fringe gossip claims this oil was once laced with trace opium to soothe nerves, though palace physicians deny any narcotic properties. You inhale deeply, letting the aroma settle in your senses. As you lie down on your feather-stuffed mattress, you notice the faint sparkle of pearl powder around your lips, the lingering scent of frankincense in your hair, and the oily sheen that catches the last candle's flicker. In this world, beauty is a blend of opulence, ritual, and risk. Each practice is a gamble between radiance and ruin. You close your eyes, cheeks still tingling from the past, and wonder if these passages of pain and indulgence will ever be worth the glow they promise. You awaken to a hush deeper than any before. The palace seems to hold its breath today, for the childbearing trial looms ahead. As a concubine, your greatest worth can hinge on producing an heir, ideally a son. The imperial nursery's walls echo with infant coos, a poignant reminder that fertility here isn't merely personal, it's dynastic destiny. By mid-morning, you're led to the fertility chamber, a serene space draped in silk banners painted with phoenixes and cranes, symbols of rebirth. Official records from the Ming Dynasty note that concubines underwent specialized medical examinations here, with the palace physician checking pulse points believed to indicate reproductive health. Historians still argue whether these exams genuinely improved maternal outcomes or simply reinforced the emperor's control over women's bodies. Your physician today, Dr. Han, is a wizened man, steeped in both Confucian classics and folk remedies. He palpates your lower abdomen and asks about your menstrual cycle, questions that make your cheeks flush hotter than the cinnabar rouge on your cheeks. As he listens, you recall a fringe practice detailed in a secret manuscript. Some concubines swallowed powdered dragon bone, actually fossilized mammal teeth, believed to regulate fertility. Serious scholars dismiss this as dangerous pseudoscience, citing cases of digestive distress and even fractures in prized jade dining sets from excessive bone grit. After the exam, you're escorted to a small pavilion for an herbal tonic designed to invigorate the womb. A bowl of a steaming broth holds goji berries, angelica root, and slices of deer penis, a potent, warming ingredient celebrated since Han times. Mainstream medical texts prescribe deer penis for its yang-enhancing properties, though this has sparked debate among physicians. Does it truly improve conception rates, or is it merely ritualistic? You gulp the broth, its gamey warmth spreading through your chest. Joke 1. Who knew dynastic succession tasted like Sunday brunch? Next, you join a circle of concubines in the moonlight courtyard for the fertility dance, an intimate ritual under lantern-lit trees. You remove your silk outer robe to reveal a simple linen tunic and trace circular patterns in the air with your hands, mimicking the lunar cycles. Fringe lore says the dance was choreographed to align with the emperor's birth date, synchronizing cosmic energies. Scholars still debate whether the dance ever existed in any formal capacity, or was a later invention by court poets seeking romantic embellishment. As you spin, your linen skirt flutters like petals in a soft wind, and you feel both vulnerable and empowered. By afternoon, you're summoned to the Imperial Nursery, a brightly lit wing where royal infants coo in gilded cradles. You hold baby Prince Rui wrapped in silk embroidered with tiny dragons. The infant's skin is soft as down, and his cry, a single wail, fills you with an unexpected tenderness. The wet nurse, a veteran servant sworn to secrecy, whispers that only concubines who have held a male heir are allowed repeated nursery visits. You cradle the prince's weight, mindful of every breath, imagining this could be your future path to security. Later, a eunuch offers you a green jade pendant, carved in the shape of a coiled dragon, the emblem of expectation. He explains it's a token for favored concubines who've shown promise in fertility trials. Official palace inventories list these pendants among the most coveted symbols of status. You fasten it around your neck, the cool stone resting against your collarbone, and feel its weight both comforting and burdensome. As dusk falls, you're brought to the ceremony of swaddling, a solemn rite, where you demonstrate proper cradle weaving with silk strips. Each fold must be precise to ensure the infant's safety. A misplaced ribbon could be construed as negligence and offense, recorded in the court's disciplinary logs. Fringe etiquette guides suggest weaving a small secret prayer into the final knot, hope for your future child, but mainstream historians question whether any concubine truly risked such symbolic defiance. At night in your chamber, you place the jade pendant beside a small ivory box containing knitted booties, a gift from a mother concubine who bore twins. The tiny shoes smell faintly of lavender oil used to calm infants. You tuck them under your pillow as a talisman, even though Dr. Han warned against magical thinking. You lie awake, the soft glow of moonlight filtering through silk screens, and imagine the day you might cradle your son here. His first breath echoing like a promise. Sleep comes fitfully as you ponder the gravity of your new status in the harem. Motherhood can elevate you from obscurity to influence or condemn you to endless trials if you fail. Tonight, fertility is both your pathway to power and your greatest vulnerability. You inhale deeply the scent of cassia bark lingering in the air, and steel yourself for the future carved by this delicate dance between biology and destiny. You awake before dawn to the distant clatter of porcelain being arranged for the emperor's breakfast, and with it comes a fleeting thought. Despite your gilded chains, is there room for choice within these walls? Today's trial is an agency in captivity, claiming what little autonomy you can amid the palace's ceaseless demands. Your first test begins in the scholar's nook, a hidden alcove behind the library hall, lined with bamboo scroll cases. Here, favored concubines are offered a rare privilege, the selection of one book from the Imperial collection. You brush your fingers across titles bound in crimson silk, classics of poetry, treatises on calligraphy, and works on statecraft. Historians still argue whether access to these texts empowered concubines intellectually or was merely another layer of surveillance, for every loan is meticulously logged by the eunuch librarian. You choose a slim anthology of Levi's poems, drawn to verses about wandering rivers and unbridled freedom. Clutching it to your chest, you feel a spark of defiance. Words that belong to eternity, not prison. By mid-morning, you're summoned to the court of proposals, where concubines may petition the emperor for minor privileges, extra time in the gardens, special fabrics for underrobe linings, or visits from family emissaries. You draft your request on a pale blue slip of silk. Permit me weekly time in the chrysanthemum garden for personal reflection. As you write, your handshakes are conscious that every word is weighed for tone and implication. Fringe diaries suggest some concubines coded secret messages in the margins, but palace scribes insist they redacted any unauthorized annotations. You fold the slip and tuck it into a carved jade box heart, drumming as you deliver it to the eunuch herald. Next, in the midday hush of the celestial banquet pavilion, reserved for communal dining among high-ranking concubines, you seize another opportunity for self-direction. While others engage in courtly chatter, you lean toward Lady Ming, who oversees the selection of menu offerings. "May I suggest bamboo pith salad instead of lotus root today?" you whisper. She raises an eyebrow but grants a slight nod. Soon, a dish glazed with sesame oil and sprinkled with toasted rice appears. Though minor, it feels like a victory. Your palate, your preference acknowledged in this place where tastes are dictated by protocol. Your afternoon unfolds in the Jade Dance Studio, where memorized choreography dominates. Yet today, you're permitted to improvise a 1-minute freestyle segment before the Imperial Inspector's arrival. The mirrors gleam as you step onto the polished floor, and with a steady breath you allow your arms to arc beyond prescribed movements, tracing the flight of cranes at sunset. For a moment your body speaks a language of your own making. The inspector's eyes narrow and then soften as though he notices more than just form. Historians still debate whether such spontaneous expression ever earned true favor or was viewed as insolence. You bow deeply, heart-pounding with exhilaration and dread. By dusk, you slip into the secret chamber beneath the Lotus Pavilion, a sanctuary, known only to a handful of concubines. Lanterns lined along the low ceiling cast golden pools of light on a central silk screen, painted with bamboo groves. Here, you and 2 others share stolen moments, reading secret letters from home, exchanging tokens like pressed wildflowers, and offering each other counsel. Tonight, May reveals the news of your younger sister's upcoming wedding, a reminder of the world you left behind. You press a jade hairpin, a gift from your mother, into May's palm. Joke 1. At least there's no barefoot dancing on peanut shells here. These acts of solidarity feel revolutionary in a place built on isolation. Your final act of agency arrives with the evening offerings. In the ancestral shrine, you place a single porcelain dish of sweet rice balls before the emperor's ancestors, a ritual open to all concubines but often rote. Tonight, you slip a handwritten poem into the fold of the ritual cloth, a humble tribute that subtly asks for your freedom if only within the harem's gates. The words speak of caged songbirds dreaming of open skies. Fringe scholars debate whether such personal offerings were ever read aloud or quietly discarded by the chamberlain. You will never know which. Returning to your quarters, you feel the weight of the day's choices, small rebellions in a sea of obedience. Each petition, each poetic flourish, and each improvised dance step serves as a testament to your will. In this gilded prison, true power comes in moments of self-definition, when you claim a sliver of your story amid the emperor's grand narrative. As candlelight flickers across your silk screens, you stand by your low lacquered desk and place Levi's anthology atop your embroidered writing kit. You trace its title with a trembling fingertip, a reminder that words endure, long after palace walls crumbled to dust. In this world of rigid rituals, you have discovered an inner realm where choice still breathes. The morning sun filters through carved screens as you prepare for the ceremony of complete offering Dang Tron Moatu in the Hall of Ancestors. Today's ritual demands you present both your most treasured possession and a symbol of humility before the ancestral tablets. The hall's vaulted ceiling stretches above you echoes of past generations, whispering through ornate beams. You steady yourself, recalling the stakes every offering is noted, and a misjudged gift can signal pride or poverty. You approach the altar bearing 2 items, a fine porcelain snuff bottle shaped like a lotus bud, your most valued keepsake from home, and a simple clay token inscribed with your parents' names, a nod to your humble origins. Historians still argue whether offering ancestral tokens held deep spiritual weight or was simply another demonstration of courtly piety. You place the clay token first, bowing low until your forehead nearly touches the stone floor. Then, with hands trembling, but resolved, you set the snuff bottle beside it, its jade stopper glinting. A bead of incense smoke curls upward, a silent witness to your offering. The chamberlain steps forward to inspect the items, his eyes flickering between the humble token and the ornate bottle. You hold your breath. After a suspended moment, he bows to you, a rare sign of respect for balance in both humility and pride. Joke 1. Who knew a clay disc could outshine a jade-laced keepsake? You rise heart-pounding, aware that you've showcased both your roots and your adaptability to palace life. By midday, you're summoned to the Hall of Silk Tapestries for the fabric judgment, a subtle test of your status and frugality. Rows of silks drape the walls, from plain hemp to rare phoenix pattern brocade. Concubines are asked to select a length of fabric for their next court appearance. The choice reveals their sense of self, ostentatious or restrained. Historians still debate whether fabric allotments correlated with imperial favor or were arbitrarily assigned. You eye the tapestries, weighing practicality against the assertion of elegance. Finally, you choose a mid-weight lavender silk embroidered with subtle peony motifs, a nod to both grace and modesty. A clerk notes your selection in a ledger, bound with silver clasps, and you slip the fabric roll into your arms. In the afternoon, you attend the etiquette reassessment in the Jade Courtyard, your third posture evaluation this season. This time, the emphasis lies on hand placement during greetings. You practice the two lotus gesture, palms curved upward, fingertips barely touching. Fringe etiquette scrolls suggest some concubines hide secret messages by notch marks on their nails during this gesture, but scholars dispute whether these signals were ever covertly used. You perform the gesture flawlessly, feeling the soft strain in your wrists ease as you watch the chamberlain nod in approval. Later, you're invited to the Treasury Library to inspect the imperial seal's impression and honor granted to few. The crimson wax bears the emperor's calligraphic signature. Its curves like a dragon's spine. Legions of bureaucrats swear by the seal's authenticity. Losing it meant political ruin. You press your fingertip lightly into the soft wax, feeling the distinct ridges, a tactile connection to power you seldom touch. Historians still argue whether this experience deepened concubines' loyalty or simply reinforced the chasm between ruler and ruled. You withdraw your finger, the imprint a silent bow of allegiance and a reminder of your cage. As dusk approaches, you join the collective chant in the grand shrine, a final offering of voice. Hundreds of concubines stand in rows, raising incense sticks and chanting blessings for the empire's prosperity. Your voice merges with the chorus, a breath of your own will beneath layers of ritual. Fringe accounts claim that individual voices could subtly alter the chant's harmony, though mainstream scholars deem this fanciful. You let the chant wash over you, an act of communal surrender and solidarity. Returning to your quarters, you unroll the lavender silk on your lacquered table, smoothing its folds as if taming the fabric itself. You place the clay token and snuff bottle side by side on your shrine, a daily reminder that you bring both self and sacrifice to the emperor's court. Lying on your feather-stuffed mattress, you feel a tender pride. For the first time, you've given completely of both heart and possession. Yet the hall's incense lingers in your senses, a reminder that every gift here is weighed and remembered. In this world of ceremonial giving, true power may lie in the grace with which you surrender and reclaim pieces of yourself. The pale moon casts silver patterns across the polished marble as you prepare for the heart's transformation prayer in the inner shrine, a ritual called Shinchu Wui Joy. in which you surrender not possessions but the very core of your emotions. Before the ancestral tablets, you kneel on a cushion of lotus silk, the scent of sandalwood incense drifting in smoke rings around you. The high priestess, draped in vermilion robes, places a jade mirror before you, a symbol that the emperor's gaze reflects your inner self. Historians still argue whether this ceremony genuinely fostered spiritual renewal or served as another method of imperial control over concubines' psyches. Madame Lian stands behind you, whispering the invocation. Let the heart be as clear as still water, unmarred by jealousy or fear. You close your eyes and repeat the words, feeling their weight settle in your chest. French devotional texts claim that some concubines wrote secret petitions on lotus petals and cast them into a hidden pool beneath the shrine, trusting the waters to carry their true desires to the heavens. Mainstream scholars, however, dismiss this as a romantic myth, pointing to imperial edicts that strictly prohibited any private writing within sacred spaces. As you breathe steady, the high priestess traces an intricate pattern in the air with a goose feather brush dipped in vermilion ink, the mark of renewal. You feel the brush's phantom touch on your forehead like a bell's toll inside your mind. According to palace records, the mark was believed to wash away lingering attachments, allowing concubines to devote themselves wholly to imperial service. Some French accounts suggest that the ink contained ground pearl, so the mark shimmered in the torchlight, but medical treatises warn that pearl dust could irritate the skin. After the marking, you rise and gaze into the jade mirror. The surface seems to ripple as though your reflection is a spirit poised between past and future. You search your own eyes for traces of doubt or resentment, determined to lay them down. Joke 1. Who knew relinquishing envy would feel like giving away a pair of silk slippers you never liked? The high priestess nods, her expression unreadable, and intones a blessing that echoes through the shrine's vaulted arches. Following the ritual, you're led to the Solitude Garden, a secluded courtyard of bamboo and plum blossoms for silent meditation. Sitting on a mossy stone bench, you watch petals drift across the dark water. This moment of stillness is rare in the palace's unending bustle. French mystics claim the garden sits atop an ancient well of heart water that grants emotional clarity. Serious historians counter that the well was filled in centuries ago to prevent accidents. Still, as you breathe in the cool night air, you feel a genuine easing of tension you didn't know you carried. Returning to your quarters, you write a personal reflection on a scrap of silk unseen by the emperor or eunuchs, affirming your intention to release fear and envy. Though you tuck the silk away in a locked drawer, you sense the act itself has shifted something within you. In this gilded cage, the bravest rebellion may be the quiet surrender of burdens that weigh too heavily on the soul. A hush falls over the silent corridor as you slip through its lacquered doors, the paper lanterns glowing like captive stars. Tonight, your trial is listening to the ghosts of former favorites, the concubines who once dazzled the emperor but vanished into legend. The palace archives record dozens of untimely deaths and mysterious disappearances. Yet historians still argue whether these tales stem from real tragedies or palace propagandists, spinning cautionary myths. As you step inside, the air feels colder, and you recall Leon's whisper. Some halls remember every footstep you take. The corridor was originally built during the Qing dynasty to house retired concubines, but after a deadly fever swept through one winter, its occupants were quietly relocated, or so official records claim. French accounts insist the survivors were secretly executed to prevent scandal, their cries echoing through these walls for decades. Whether those stories hold truth or were later embellishments remains hotly debated among court scholars. You run your fingers along the carved mahogany railing, tracing motifs of peony blossoms and phoenix wings. The moonlight filtering through narrow windows casts shifting shadows that seem to flicker at the edge of your vision. A distant drip, perhaps water, perhaps something more, breaks the silence. Legends say that on moonless nights, you can hear the soft shuffle of silk skirts and distant sobs, a spectral lament for lives lost too soon. You pause listening. Your heart thuds as the drip becomes a rhythmic echo like a heartbeat not your own. Further along, you reach a small alcove where a faded mural depicts your predecessors in their prime elegant concubines, offering lotus blossoms to the emperor under a full moon. The paint is cracked and one figure's face has been intentionally scratched away, an act recorded in palace gossip as a jealous lady's revenge. French restorers once tried to repair it, but the emperor ordered the mural left in decay, declaring it a lesson that beauty fades and flavor is fleeting. Scholars debate whether this was an imperial decree or the handiwork of secret censors. As you approach the mural, a chill wind drifts in, though the corridor's windows are sealed shut. A silk ribbon left behind by a long-gone favorite stirs on the floor. You sense a presence behind you, a soft sigh, a whisper of perfume that isn't jasmine or rose, but something older, muskier. You turn, but see only your reflection in a bronze mirror set into the wall. The mirror is one of the original Tang-era pieces said to be cursed after a beloved concubine hung herself reflected on its surface. Official court historians dismissed the curse as superstition. French storytellers insist the mirror sometimes shows the faces of the lost instead of your own. Your steps falter as you pass the door of whispers, a carved double-leaf door rumored to guard a hidden chamber where past favorites met their end. The door's iron latch is rusted as if untouched for centuries. You place a trembling hand on the latch, half expecting it to move on its own. A hush so deep settles that you swear you hear your blood pulsing in your ears. Whether this fear is real or imagined is something even palace physicians cannot agree on. Pressing on, you enter the moonlit niche, a recessed alcove where a single cedar pillar stands. Rumor has it this pillar was once a gallows for concubines accused of treason or disgrace. Texts from the Yongle era mention punishment by removal to the heavens, an opaque phrase scholars still debate. Some interpret it as exile, others as execution. You lean against the cool cedar, feeling its grains like faint pulse lines beneath your palm. In the faint lantern glow, you notice footprints dusted in powder perhaps left over from a beauty ritual, or the residue of ceremonial incense. You follow them to a small wooden bench, where you find a delicate hairpin carved like a dragonfly identical to the one you saw in Section 1. You recall that hairpin belonged to Lady Guo, whose disappearance was officially attributed to marriage, though palace whispers told of a secret burial in a remote frontier. Holding the hairpin, you feel the weight of her vanished presence. A sudden gasp echoes behind you, perhaps from an overactive imagination. You spin, heart racing, and see a flicker in the mirror, a white-tinged silhouette gliding past you. Your breath catches. Historians still argue whether palace mirrors held residual images of past tragedies or if the eyes simply played tricks under low light. You turn back to the mirror, but now the hallway is empty. Only your reflection meets your gaze, eyes wide with wonder and dread. You walk back the way you came, footsteps echoing like a tenuous heartbeat in the vast corridor. Every shadow seems pregnant with memory. Every carved blossom seems to whisper the names of those who once walked here. The moon has shifted, and now you peer through a barred window at the palace moat's black waters. You imagine the reflections of ghostly figures drifting across the surface, their pale forms calling you to remember. By the time you reach your quarters, your legs are unsteady. You lock your door and place the dragonfly hairpin atop your dresser as both a souvenir and a warning. The silk ribbon you found you tuck into your sleeve, an omen you choose to keep close. Lying on your crane feather mattress, you close your eyes and listen no more. Drips, no more whispers, just the steady hum of the palace around you. In this world of shifting alliances and imperial whims, the ghosts of former favorites remind you that favor is as fragile as spun silk and as fleeting as moonlight. To survive, you must honor their memory without becoming one of them, a specter lost to time. The first light of dawn filters through your silk screens, painting your quarters in pale gold. Today, you stand at the edge of everything you've built here. Every ritual learned, every alliance forged, every secret you've borne. This morning's trial isn't a ceremony but the waiting itself. The endless anticipation of the Emperor's next decree, the final arbiter of your fate in this gilded labyrinth. You rise from your crane feather mattress and dress in twilight blue silk, trimmed with silver lotus embroidery, the color chosen to signal readiness for change. Historians still argue whether the harem's dress codes varied by mood or imperial whim. But court records confirm that twilight hues were rarely worn without explicit approval. You knot your sash with deliberate care, recalling the advice of Madame Wei. Your clothes are your herald. Let them speak of poise, not panic. Stepping into the corridor of echoes, you pass the Pearl Pavilion and the Hall of Ceremonies, each space weighted with memory. At every turn, you replay your first day's jarring arrival and the whispered query that revealed your composure. A bead of jasmine oil still lingers at your hairline, its scent as constant as your heartbeat. French writers claim some concubines anointed themselves nightly with rare musk to ensure lingering presence in the emperor's dreams, though serious scholars doubt whether the aroma or the dreams ever reached imperial chambers. In the inner court, you pause by the living lotus garden, where painted koi seem to swim in the watered jade floor. The koi's inverted image, a symbol of prosperity pouring in, reminds you that fortunes here can reverse just as swiftly. Scholars debate whether the inversion was intentional or a craftsman's error. But you know better, in this palace, accidents often carry meaning. You're led to the Judgment Throne antechamber, a small alcove where petitions are displayed and decrees announced. Today, the chamberlain's silver-tipped staff rests beside a low bronze brazier, its coals glowing faintly. A hush falls as concubines gather, faces lit by morning lanterns still burning low. You stand among them, shoulders squared, every muscle tense like a drawn bow. This waiting is a test of endurance. No rituals soothe this anxiety. As the chamberlain steps forward, you recall the countless trials you've endured, the jealous shove in the mirror gallery, the exhilarating terror of the Hall of Audiences, the beauty practices that left your scalp tingling, the secret alliances in shadowed corridors, and the solemn offerings that laid bare your heart's truths. Each moment was a stone in the path to this threshold. A hush deepens as the chamberlain unfurls a silk scroll. You hold your breath as he clears his throat and begins to speak your name. Joke 1. If only he were announcing a jade allotment instead of your destiny. The words hang suspended, granting favor, delaying judgment, or condemning you to obscurity. You stiffen every fiber, brace for the verdict. Suddenly, he pauses. His eyes lift, dark and unreadable. In that moment, time fractures. You recall your mother's voice, the dusty straw of your childhood hut, and the echo of your laughter with May. You feel a flicker of something beyond fear resolve. At last, the chamberlain rolls the scroll closed. He inclines his head, an ambiguous gesture that could signal mercy or further trial. Joke 2. Talk about cliffhangers. This beats any imperial edict I've ever heard. Without another word, he turns and exits the scroll left unspoken in his hands. Concubines exchange wary glances. Some bow, some retreat. You remain still, absorbing the silence. The emperor's decree will arrive later, perhaps at the midday banquet, perhaps at tomorrow's audience. Until then, your future hangs, poised between the scroll's folds, uncertain as dawn's first breath. You return to your quarters, heart pounding, and remove your twilight blue robe. The crane feather mattress welcomes you like a silent ally. You close your eyes, replaying each ritual, each choice, each moment of agency. Amid captivity, whether favor blooms or fades, you know this: you have become more than ritual. You are the sum of every trial survived. And so you lie still, listening to the palace awaken. The distant clang of bronze doors, the murmur of eunuchs, the soft stir of silk. These are the sounds of your world, both cage and canvas. Today's decree may shape your path, but it cannot erase the resilience you forged. Now let the palace's pulse soften at the edges of your awareness. Imagine the candles glow, dimming as you drift deeper into rest. Each inhalation draws in the lingering scent of jasmine and sandalwood. Each exhalation releases the day's tremors. Feel the cool silk of your night robe against your skin, a gentle whisper of comfort. Recall the lotus pools of the inner court, their surface still and steady beneath dawn's first light. Let your mind float upon those mirrors of water, releasing ripples of anxiety, until only calm remains. In that quiet reflection, know that survival here has forged your strength as surely as fire tempers steel. Let the echoes of ceremonial drums fade into a heartbeat of your rhythm, steady and unhurried. The jade floors may still gleam in memory, but your bed is soft beneath you, a sanctuary far from marble halls. Embrace the hush of silken screens around you, the soft sigh of feather-filled pillows, and allow your shoulders to sink into the embrace of night. Here in the gentle dark, you are no one's ornament but your keeper. The emperor's favors may shift like lantern light, but your resilience endures beyond every decree. Let these thoughts cradle you into sleep, that even in a world of rigid rituals, your spirit remains free in the spaces between the ceremonies. Rest now, carried by the lullaby of distant echoes and the promise of dawn's new breath. Tomorrow's trials await, but for tonight, surrender to the hush, and the hush becomes your own.